We actually have a little bit of breaking news here, so let's jump to that bad boy. Per our very own Brian Murphy, WRAL investigative sports reporter, Florida State trustee Justin Roth, quote, "Our goal is, as a university, should be to figure out how we exit this TV deal that we currently have in the next 12 months. In a different tweet from our very own Brian Murphy, WRAL, sports investigative reporter, Florida State's president, quote, "Florida State will have to, at some point, consider very seriously leaving the ACC unless there were a radical change to the revenue distribution."
Also here, Florida State trustee Drew Weatherford says, quote, "It's not a matter of if we leave the ACC, but how and when we leave." That's bold words.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's bold. Now it's getting real.
Yikes.
Now, like you mentioned earlier in the show, rumors circulating are just rumors. But when you hear someone within a university or a conference commissioner say something like this, then you know it's real.
And make no mistake about it. I'm on. You mentioned how jokes and maybe a little bit of trash talk. It's all fair.
Yeah.
You keep receipts. I'm all for the jokes at the expense of Florida State. Right. They've struggled compared to where they were, and some of their fans still believe they are where they were. And I'm like, hey, and when you're on top, you get to talk trash. When you're not on top, the trash gets talked at you. Like, I'm fine with the Florida State trash talk. Like, if you want to give them the business, go ahead and give them the business. But I'm also not here to say that they aren't a brand name, that they aren't an asset to the ACC, that there likely wouldn't be people interested in following them if they made a drastic decision. Right? I don't think if Florida State stands up and does the Jerry Maguire, right? I'm leaving, who's coming with me? That it's going to be crickets. Right? I think they're dynamic and magnetic enough that if I'm leaving, who's coming with me? Someone might say yes.
Well, if you remember the Magnificent Seven, which included UNC and NC State, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Florida State, I think Clemson, Miami was involved in all of this as well. So yes, they were part of that Magnificent Seven. Well, if FSU is able to find a way out, who says that these other universities, part of that Magnificent Seven, are also going to find a way out?
It's also, and this is the other option, right? Although Florida State Board of Trustee member Drew Weatherford, that quote, not messing around, right?
No.
It's not a matter of if we leave, it's a matter of how and when we leave. But let's not pretend that everything isn't a negotiation, okay? Let's not pretend that they might be puffing up their chest in order to either pressure ESPN into upping the ACC media rights deal as far as how much each team gets, or puffing up their chest to bully the ACC into changing how they distribute the money they're already getting from ESPN. Right? It's not a matter of if we leave, it's a matter of how and when we leave. And then the ACC has a meeting and says, what if we give you 50% of what we were giving Syracuse? And Syracuse just has to make do with 50%. I'm listening, right? That it might be they need to be wooed. Or even more dramatically, they need to be compensated, right? Florida State right now is doing what, they're doing the same thing that, say, Josh Jacobs is doing, or the same thing that Saquon Barkley did, threatening to leave, right? You need me more than I need you. The difference is Florida State might have some leverage. Where running backs don't have leverage, I believe Florida State is an asset to the ACC.
Yeah.
Right? As somebody, I'm not a Florida State fan, not even a little bit, right? We talked with Jared Verse at the ACC kickoff. He was a nice guy, but I don't have any allegiances to that program. The thing that I would say is I am an ACC fan. So I'm rooting for the health of the conference, which helps the teams that I do follow, both professionally and personally. Right? So I don't want to see what happens to the rest of the ACC if a few of the bigger national brands start to get a little antsy, right? Start to get a little happy feet. If they need to get on the move, the teams that are left are not going to be in a good place, right? Think of it like the Pac-12. And I know that right now, for 100% certainty, the ACC is in a healthier place than the Pac-12 has been recently. Okay? But you lose USC, you lose UCLA, you lose Colorado, who might not be as big of a national brand as they once were, but Deion Sanders is a national brand. Even good programs like Stanford and Oregon, right? Even brand names like Washington are now in a very precarious situation. So if you lose Florida State and maybe, I don't know, if Clemson goes with them or Miami goes with them or any other brand name out of the ACC, if they, kind of hear what FSU is selling right now and go, that's nice, I'll have what they're having, then even the strong programs like the ones here in the Triangle, NC State, Duke, North Carolina, Wake, even the strong programs that aren't in that group are going to be in a more precarious situation. And they might be forced into making decisions they don't want to make or they weren't anticipating having to make. And again, State was in that Magnificent Seven, right? There are groups that mean a lot to us that were in that Magnificent Seven. Florida State just obviously, FSU President Richard McCullough. Another quote, this comes from Brett McMurphy of Action Network. "We are not satisfied with our current situation." This one's a little bit, by the way, just my commentary now, a little bit softer on the ACC. "We love the ACC," he continues. "Our goal is to stay in the ACC. But to stay in the ACC under current situation is hard for us to figure out how we remain competitive unless there is a major change in revenue distribution within the ACC." It sounds like Florida State is threatening to bounce unless they start getting paid more than their ACC counterparts. Or more than most of their ACC. I'm sure there's a couple peers that they might be okay being level with.
Yeah.
But that, to me, is, even if they get their way and stay, that makes me fearful for the future of the ACC. Because then the teams that get the money will be the best, and the teams that don't will get worse. And then because you're the best, you'll get more. And because you're the worst, you'll get less. And the gap will just continue growing and growing and growing until you have almost, the super rich and the super poor. And then how does a conference not split up when you have, 4 programs that are in the mix for the college football playoff every year because they're getting more and more money every year because they're the top, and you have 4 programs that are just getting their butts kicked every year because they're getting the smallest percentage of the pie, and then you expect the conference to just continue with that? Eventually, either the top of the top is going to say, why am I still here, right? I want to go play in the big leagues. And the ones that are getting their butts kicked are going to say, why am I still here just being a doormat?
Yeah. So I'd much rather go the American.
Yeah, and compete and get a fair share of the pie with the people I'm competing against. Florida State's trying to bully their way into getting a bigger slice of the media rights pie or a new media rights deal or leave, and that might be great for Florida State, but I don't think it's great for the conference. And Florida State might look at me dead in the eye and say, it's not our responsibility to worry about the conference. We're looking out for numero uno, right? Similar to when a player is holding out for a new contract. Right? That might not be best for the team, but I got to look out for numero uno in my own pocketbook.
Yeah.
Either way, this is now real, right? Yesterday, the rumors that popped up on message boards about Clemson, Florida State, Oregon, and Washington, or Stanford, or whoever it was, jumping to the Big Ten, and there's nothing but unnamed sources, right? I didn't know the people that weren't naming their sources. Today, these are presidents, trustees, these are people with power putting their name attached to the quotes.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't some reporter saying, someone inside the program. This is blank, FSU trustee, blank, FSU president.
Yeah, we get a board of trustee for a university saying, if not now, say not when or if, but when and how. I'll say that again. And saying It's not if we leave, it's when and how we leave.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's a declarative statement. You know, that's not like we're thinking about it. We're gonna weigh our options. No, you've made up your mind.
And this is a good kind of cap on the conversation. And again, it comes from Brian Murphy, who you hear on this show often, friend of the program. Florida State president and trustees make it clear they're looking to leave the Atlantic Coast Conference. Exactly when and how, less clear about that. So in certain ways, they've put it very bluntly. They've talked about it very, very obviously. In other ways, they were vague. Until those other ways, they have a direct plan, because I'm just going to throw this out there. I still don't know how you get out of the ACC grant of rights when it comes to your media rights, even if you want to. Until they have an answer to how do you break that, it's a lot of posturing. But also, I'm not sure you want like a Florida State that hates where they are in your conference for the next 13 years, because the grant of rights goes until 2036. That sounds kind of miserable too. To use another example, I guess they could James Harden this bad boy, which is like, I want to trade. No, you're under contract. We're not trading you. All right, I'm going to make your life miserable, right? I'm going to be terrible at the podium. I'm going to be out of shape. I'm not going to play well, and I'm probably going to pull my hamstring. Like, Florida State could just make life miserable for the ACC, but I hope it doesn't get to that, and I hope Florida State would be above that, and I hope the ACC comes out all right.